Welcome to Read Your Comics. Today I'm returning to the new universe with Kickers Inc. Thanks for joining me today. My name is Daryl and I am the host of Read Your Comics. If you've been around for a while, you've probably been anxiously awaiting for me to get back into the new universe. I started this channel out with a sampling of Starbrand and Spitfire, and then I just kind of let the new universe languish for a while. But you know what? It's Super Bowl week, and it's the perfect time to look at Kickers Inc. And I gotta say, I had high hopes for this title. It's done with one of the more traditional teams of Tom Defalco, and at least the first couple issues are Ron Frenz. So I'm only really going to spend a lot of time on issue 1 and then maybe just kind of skim through the others real quick, just so you kind of get an idea of like what I'm talking about and the inconsistencies of it. I'm not going to dive too deep into the plot of every issue because I'll be honest, it took me months to read these 5 issues because it just couldn't hold my attention that well. So I want to hold your attention in this video, so I'm going to go pretty quick with it. But before I do that, I just want to give a quick shout out to all the viewer support. All your likes, comments, and shares are appreciated. And if you're new to the channel or just haven't done so already, be sure to hit subscribe right here. That way you never miss any future videos. It helps the algorithmy stuff for YouTube and other people find the channel. Yada, yada, yada. Let's get into Kickers Inc. Let's look at number 1. I do like the cover for number 1. It's interesting. You got like a guy with Kirby Crackle going all around him. What is Kickers Inc? Birth of a Hero. This is an intriguing enough title to make you want to check it out, right? And that's why I thought, is this one going to be a little bit more traditional superhero style, right? I mean, it looks Kirby-ish because it's Ron Frenz who kind of has that in him, right? It even starts out looking like a Silver Age book with this intro splash page. Like I said, we got a pretty good team. Tom DeFalco, Ron Frenz, Sal Buscema doing the inks. Starting out with a bang on the creative team. Pretty corny looking outfits here. These look like something that were definitely made for a Saturday morning cartoon. I've heard that this title wasn't really intended to be part of the new universe initially, but Jim Shooter wanted to like go ahead and fold it into it just because they probably needed more titles. I don't know how much of that. I don't remember where I heard that or how accurate that really is, but I guess it's something to keep in mind, thinking that this title is going to feel a little different than the other new universe titles, at least the other 2 that I've read so far. So we're going to follow a football team here. That's why I said Super Bowl week, perfect week to look at this book. We got a professional football team. They're called the Smashers, and their quarterback, he's an older quarterback. He's still playing okay, but he feels like he's getting old. We introduce all the other characters here. We got this guy named Brick, and they all have their own personalities too. Brick he's really into finance and reading the stock market and business page of the paper and stuff, and making sure that his well, they don't call it the NFL. His post-professional football career is well taken care of. This guy's name is Dasher. He's one of the wide receivers, and he's Mr. Sleek, likes to dress up real nice and fancy clothes, and he's also kind of one of the older guys on the team, a veteran. And then this guy in the back is kind of a show-off. And that's going to be the main basis of our characters. As I said, just kind of establishing each character trait here on the first few pages. Our quarterback comes out, and he sees his wife, and they're going to go visit his brother. She's not a big fan of the brother, and he's a scientist. Look at this, is like a Kirby cheat panel. All this is very Kirby-ish right here to me. The brother is working on this machine that is supposed to kind of like enhance your physical abilities or be kind of like a regenerative thing to make you like heal faster, enhance your muscles, I mean, it's almost like a steroid machine of some sort. And he wants to test it on his brother, the quarterback, who's, kind of iffy about the whole thing, like not sure if he should do that or not. And notice he's got blonde hair too. So he's considering it. They're taking a walk when there's this flash of light. So this is something that I think is supposed to be a catalyst moment of the new universe, and it didn't really happen in the other 2 books that I've read. In Starbrand, I don't remember this white flash, or in Spitfire. Didn't happen in that either, but I've read about the new universe that this white flash is supposed to be a thing that kind of sets off a lot of these, like giving characters superpowers and whatnot. So it just happens real quick. It makes him woozy, but not anybody else really on the street, at least that we see here. And then he decides, all right, brother, I'm going to go try your machine. And he does. and he comes out and now his hair is white. But I mean, look at all of this looks super Kirby-ish. So again, at this point, I'm still kind of feeling this title. I'm like, it's a little slow paced as we introduce everybody, but it's got a classic feel to it. And then he finds out he's out for a jog and he finds out he has super speed now. Not like Flash level super speed, but just he's able to like keep up with the car. And when he grabs it, he like pulls the bumper off and it doesn't knock him down. He's like, how'd I do that? So he starts discovering that he kind of has some powers. So he goes back to his brother and they test it out. And his brother, I guess, has some kind of condition where he's on a crutch. And he's tried the machine out on himself and it didn't really do anything to him. And so he's thinking, how could it have affected Jack? That's his name. Jack so differently. Did I overlook some factor in his body chemistry? And then we find out his brother is also in some gambling trouble. He's got some debts he owes. Part of this science experiment he's doing is being funded, I think, by the mafia guys, and he's wanting to get out of debt. So Jack, and I forget how to say his name. It's like Magiconti, but they call him Mr. Magnificent is what his football name is. And all the football guys have names too. There's like Brick and Dasher, and I forget what the other guy's name is off the top of my head, but like they all have like nicknames like that. So he goes out to play and realizes, man, now he's throwing the ball so hard, it not just bounces off the guy, it takes the guy out and he has to be carried off. I think that was Dasher, has to be carried out on a stretcher because he threw the ball so hard at him. And he starts wondering, like, what in the world? Like, I've really got to, like, watch what I'm doing. My strength is so much now. So, kind of an interesting play on it. Of course, he keeps playing and gets all these endorsements, and the team starts really doing well. I think they had maybe kind of been in the middle of the pack, but they go on to win the championship. So pretty decent football panels here. I like that from the angle of the pylon. Man, there's so many TV angles that artists could use for reference in these days. I mean, this is from like what, 1986? Yep. This is from 1986. Imagine what they do with all the TV camera angles now to do some of these football shots. I can't really think, other than NFL Super Pro, I can't really think of too many titles that involve like a professional sports player as the main character or the setting of the book or whatever. So Jack's doing a little bit of showboating, but he's a little bummed at the same time. They're winning. It even says the Super Bowl. They're headed for the Super Bowl. It does say it here. It's not the NFL. They're called the Smashers, but they do call it the Super Bowl. That's a trademark thing, so it's kind of funny that they call it that in here. Either they got away with it or the NFL wasn't as diligent about it in 1986. Because, I mean, nowadays, you can't make an ad for a grocery store and say Super Bowl special. It's got to be big game or something like that, or super special. You cannot use the term Super Bowl. That is a trademark thing. Anyhow, the brother isn't able to pay off his debts here, and he gets roughed up by the mafia goons here. Again, this feels very Kirby-ish, and you can really, I don't know how far along Ron Frenz was in his career in 1986. I guess he'd been around for a couple of years, and I do know that he's got those Kirby-isms. He likes playing with those type of layouts and stuff. But you do see it here without being like overtly, trying to be Kirby. Like even this right here. So here, Jack is feeling a little like bummed, really, because the game is becoming too easy to him now, and he's wanting to know if it can be reversed. He said, why would you want it to be reversed? I've become too powerful. I have such an advantage over the other players that I almost feel like I'm cheating when I take the field. How can I tell him that I don't even know why the intensifier affected him? So the brother's still confused by it all. Of course, the team, they do go on to. This is kind of interesting to think about that here's a football player that got these special powers, and now the game has actually become boring to him. And he feels like after this season, he doesn't want to quit on his team, but he feels like after this season, he should probably quit football if these powers are going to still be there because he has such an advantage. It doesn't seem right to him. And it's a good, moral sense of morality there for our main character here to think like, I shouldn't be doing this with these powers. It's not fair to the other players I'm playing against. Because let's face it, most of us, if we had some kind of like power ability that was, not just like a naturally born thing, and we were able to go exploit it for our personal gain, most of us probably would. I'm not saying go rob banks or something, but playing the sport, if you're able to run a little faster, throw a little harder, a lot of us would probably go do that. So, good little football montage there. They look like the Denver Broncos. There's no logos. Everything's very generic. So the mafia comes again because the brother's in such debt. He can't pay it off. Mr. Magnificent comes in to help his brother, but it's too late. His brother collapses and is dead. But he took out the mobsters while they were there too. Then he kind of has like a revelation that he needs to do good and use these powers for right. So he brings his teammates in, his three close buddies and his wife, and he brings them to his brother's lab that I guess he inherited or something, or maybe he was bankrolling it or something. I don't know. He gets the lab and he puts them all in the intensifier. And he's going to give all them powers too. So you're like, oh, we're going to get a super team here, right? But it doesn't do anything to them. And they decide instead they're going to become these like social welfare, independent welfare agents and start a charity organization that they're going to go around and try to help people. It's kind of vague as to how, but that's their goal. And the finance guy, of course, he sees it as a great tax write-off opportunity. And the Kickers Inc. is formed. So the point of this was like, I don't know, just to show that the machine doesn't work. Because earlier in the issue, the brother kept saying that he had tried it on himself and it didn't help him. What's going on? Why did it affect Jack? And they do it to the other guys. I guess that's just to show like, hey, the machine isn't really what gave him the powers. Although it may have been a catalyst. It's really that white flash, which was just like a moment that I don't know what book that takes place in, because I kind of was reading these in the order that they came out. Starbrand was the first one, and I think Spitfire came out like a month later, and then they all just kind of dropped after that. So I don't know when this like white flash moment happened. I guess I'll see when I look at the other books. So that's Kickers Inc. #1. Let's just take a quick look at some of these other ones so we can kind of see what the hot mess was. #2, this cover, I've said that this looks like the 1980s robot from the Sears Wish book. Giant coming at him, attacking him. It's goofy as can be. We still get Ron Frenz, but Brett Breeding is the inker. One thing about the New Universe books is the budget was slashed like right as the line was going to launch. So the creative teams are not super consistent. Usually you get the writer kind of sticking around, but the art team, it's not consistent at all. So here we are, our Kickers Inc. team. They got fancy new uniforms, looking cornball as hell in them. We saw it on the first page of the last issue, but now they're in them, right? And remember, only the one guy, the one quarterback. Oh yeah, look at this craziness. How this is. It's like the paper didn't get cut. And I wanted to save that to show in the video, but now I'm gonna tear it apart. That was wild. I noticed that when I was reading it. So now they're doing their thing as social welfare warriors, I guess you'd say. It's not exactly clear. They're like, we're going to form a charity and go like, I don't know, somebody calls us and they need help that's outside the law. It's kind of like the A team maybe, but they're very public about it because the head guy is the quarterback of a football team, and they're in the off season right now too. So they get to do whatever they want to do during this time. They're going on Johnny Carson. We get a lot of this stuff of him like working out, to show off his strength. I couldn't remember exactly what this issue is about. So they get a call from this neighborhood about some kind of monster or giant robot thing that's destroying these like lower income housing things. And essentially it's one of those destroy the neighborhood so they can rebuild it in new condos kind of stuff. Pretty goofy. Trying to see if there was anything that stood out in this issue to me at the time, other than the robot. It takes forever to get to it. So you've got that crazy cover. They take on street gangs. This issue is very cliche. So there's the robot. Finally, they take on the robot. Here we are, 18 pages into this comic. They finally are going to take on the robot. And Mr. Magnificent here, he's able to take it out pretty easily. Where'd they get these guns and stuff? I guess those are real kind of guns. She's holding that Uzi kind of funny, like it's a rifle. Ron Frenz may not have understood how to hold a weapon. But I mean, is this not the robot from those 80s catalogs, 80s robot thing, just a giant version of it? They're able to dispose of it pretty easily. I mean, he's gonna knock the top off a fire hydrant and spray it with water, and then that ends it. It shorts out, and the building collapses anyway. But now the neighborhood, they get to rebuild it the way they want to, and plant a garden. Woo! Kickers Inc. #2. #3. This one's wacky. It looks like they're taking on some monsters here, so you're like, oh, this real world situations is going to get a little bit more supernatural, right? And it starts off like this. I mean, devil worshippers, witches of Westchester. I mean, that's pretty wild, right? Tom DeFalco's still doing the plotting, and he does some of the scripting, but most of the scripting is Joe Duffy from pages 1 through 22. Or I'm sorry, pages 6 through 22. So we're already kind of losing. We're already having DeFalco kind of dip out of this a little bit. Ron Frenz still doing the art in this particular issue. This one is pretty wild. It is dealing with this like a cult or a satanic cult, or so they believe. And look, there's like these monsters and stuff coming at them. And they're not in their outfits. They're not in their fancy Kickers Inc. outfits. They're wearing their athletic gear. He's straight up wearing his football jersey. He's just got on like his little 80s athletic shorts and a tank top. And they chase these guys through the woods. They think they're being chased by these monsters. There's these other guys out in the woods. What are they doing out there? And it turns out that they're just kind of hallucinations. The monsters are. And the other guys say that they were out there looking for this cult too. They get directed to this campus, which is kind of sad. There's a student that committed suicide over this cult, so they want to figure out what's going on. Fairly wild stuff. More worrying about his powers and how he can handle putting himself in danger like that, but the other guys don't have powers and it's not fair to them. Their football coach, they're in spring training now, is Coach Kirby, and they're definitely trying to make him look like Kirby a little bit. So they're like, we're going to give a nod to Jack Kirby. I'd love to know what he thought of that, if he was even aware of it. So they start doing some practice. So, one of the things of this universe was it was supposed to be real time or about real time. So every month was supposed to be more or less like just a couple of days, and then the next month would be like later. They're not really like picking up on the next day, but like picking up weeks later. So let's see, this came out in January, which really means it came out in like December. We're already on issue. That means issue 1 came out in the summer, but they won the Super Bowl. So I guess it went through a few months of the season. We get another mafia guy here, and it was his son that committed suicide that fell in with the cult. And he wants to find the cult to take him out. Jack is like, well, I'm not here to murder anybody. Nobody's asking you to. Well, I'm not going to point the gun at somebody just to have somebody else fire it. And he said, okay, well, if you want to let the police take care of it, fine. It's kind of the end of that conversation. So they go to take on the cult again, and it gets to be a big Scooby-Doo moment in a minute. It turns out that this is all like hallucinogenic gas. He lets himself be captured for a second and they're gonna sacrifice him here, right? I mean, they've like tied him down, and they're gonna like straight up sacrifice him. The other kickers come in. Remember, they don't have powers. They're just normal football players that are able to, like, punch these guys and take them out. He said, I wasn't really ever taken out. I just wanted to see what you were going to do. And punches the guy. And here comes our Scooby Doo moment. It's the professor that we talked to at the school. Why were you doing this? And I would have gotten away with it if it wasn't for you football players. Basically, he said his funding got pulled from his government funding got pulled. He was working on hallucinogenic gas and stuff to help with the military, and he wanted to continue doing that. So he came up with this cult to have people fall in line and stuff. It's pretty silly. And then he's saying, there's nothing you can do to stop me because you broke in here and attacked me, even though they had him chained to a table, were ready to sacrifice him. He's like, there's nothing you can do to me. I'm above the law because you guys broke in here, which is, that in itself is just silly. And he's like, fine. So there's this guy out here. This is one of the mafia guys, and that's who was in the woods earlier too. And he's just saying out loud like who it was and where they are, and then they leave because he's like, we can't touch them with the law, but I know somebody that can take care of it. And then he feels a little guilty about it. Oh, I guess I forgot to mention too. Remember how he was having second thoughts about whether or not he should even play the sport, and that was at the spring practice where he hadn't signed his contract, and the coach was yelling at him about this. But here, the coach comes up and says, "I see you signed your contract." And he said, "Yeah, because football is the only thing in my life that is consistent, where everybody's playing by the same rules." So a little bit morality punch there. So that's what I'm saying is this title's like kind of all over the place. The first issue felt very like grounded in the real world with just like, other than him getting some superpowers, the antagonist of it was just some mafia guys and gambling stuff. The second one, all of a sudden there's like a giant robot in the streets. And this one, it looks like you've got demons and it's like a cult. Look at this cover. Would this cover interest you as a kid? I guess if you were like into football, um, and but buying comics, to me, like, sports comics never were like a big thing. Were never a big thing to me. I couldn't get into that kind of stuff. So this cover cracks me up. And we no longer have Ron Frenz doing the art. It is now Howard Bender doing layouts with Art Nichols doing finished art. So we're really just kind of, the budget's run out here. Tom DeFalco is only doing the plot, and Terry Cavanaugh is doing the script. I know Terry Cavanaugh from later on doing some X-Men books in the 90s. This must have been an early on thing. I bet he was like an editor or something at the time, and they were like, hey, we need somebody to script this. Tom's too busy to doing Thor or whatever he was working on at the time. Will you come over here and just finish this scripting out for him? More shots of him exercising. Really what he's doing here is he's trying to wear himself out before their first preseason game. So again, it is kind of real time in that sense that it's like first issue, we saw him like finish up the season. They won the Super Bowl. And then it was the off season, and then it was spring practice, and he was, going through his contract negotiations. And now we're in the preseason play. But he's decided that the best thing he can do to not have such an advantage over everybody else is to like really exercise hard and try to like tire himself out a little bit before they start playing. And they're going to play this team called the Wreckers, and they're known for being dirty. The Wreckers, especially this guy, he's the baddest of them all, Mr. Late Hit. And this is back in the day when they used to let football players, they let them play. They didn't have all that pass interference and stuff. This was man's football. It's what namby-pamby football of today. Anyway, the Smashers, who look like the Steelers, are kind of dirty. And this is just a preseason game, which is, really that's for the backups and stuff, for people to earn roster spots. The starters only play a little bit for some practice, but they've got a new rookie wide receiver, and he's going to catch the game-winning touchdown, but a late hit snaps his spine, and it sets off our Mr. Magnificent. He's throwing bodies around, coming at him. Of course, the ref makes him stop it. And at first, you think, like, when you turn the page, I thought this was going to be like a dream sequence, but it's not. It's really just he's waking up from the nightmare of this happening. And he's mad about it and saying, like, we play him on the first real game of the season. We play him again, and I want to get back at him. They broke that kid's back. He'll never walk again. So, pretty brutal accident happening. They're having like a press conference, and somebody shoots the ball. The coach is throwing the football. Coach Kirby is throwing the football to the quarterback, and it gets like shot in the air. And they're all like, "What? It's all on camera. We'll see what happened." Look at this. This almost looks like Klaus Janson inked that. Mr. Magnificent gets some note in his locker from I think it's from the Gamblers from the first issue, is what they were referring to here. Dasher's getting old, the wide receiver. He's feeling the age of being an older football player, and he's kind of bummed out about it. So Mr. Magnificent has to give him a pep talk. TV stuff saying that they're ready for the game, the rematch in the regular season versus the Wreckers. This character who comes out of nowhere, we've never seen him before. He's punching lockers, getting all geared up. His wife wearing a bathing suit for some reason just around the house that changes colors from page to page. She's worried that he's going to take vengeance out when he doesn't. She's like, you can't take vengeance out on him. That's not who you are. So this doesn't even have much to do with their like little organization. This is all about their football season stuff. So he invites the linebacker that's known for the dirty hits that broke the dude's back, who comes in just being a complete dick. He's making jokes, yuck, about the kid. So Mr. Magnificent is like throwing him weights and stuff to kind of intimidate him, which he throws him the weight and he catches it with one hand. Look at that. That's so goofy. I mean, Ron Frenz was at least doing a pretty good job on this. You could tell the working on the art on this was very half-assed. And basically, he's like bending all the weights up to intimidate the guy, to say, look, I can get you back whenever I want. So you better play a real clean game. And they do. And the Smashers, our heroes team, they go on to win, and they roll out the kid in the wheelchair. It's goofy. And I don't know what was going on. It's Mr. Fist is the guy, the gambler guy. And next issue, we get a crossover with another title. All right, last one I'm going to look at here, number 5. This one kicks over with DP7, which is the title I haven't read yet. So I flew through this when I read it too, because like I said at the beginning, this was a tough one to read. I like that it starts out though with this kind of panel to like get your interest on what's going on with or what's going to happen. This is more or less an introduction to the DP7 team, though. The Kickers Inc. Corporation gets a call from a kid whose mother she's missing. She can only make phone calls, but the dad and the grandma won't let the kid talk. This group of DP7, which are called Displaced Paranormals, there's 7 of them, I guess, and they're like hiding out in like a camper on a campground. She finally gets to call the kid, and the kid says, hey, I've called the Kickers Inc., the football players. They want to come help you. And I'm just meeting these characters because I haven't read the DP7 series. So you got this big lumberjack guy. He's obviously into the mom of the kid who sparkles. You got another guy that moves real fast. He caught some eggs, and that's all I could figure so far. Football season's still going on. There's Coach Kirby. Look at him there. Oh, we got a different artist on this one, too. Now we got Paul Ryan doing pencils and 2 different inkers. Tom Defalco plotting. Mark Grunwald stepping out of the editorial shadows probably to script this one, just to get it out there. I'm just zipping through. They kind of explain what happened with the mom. She got powers. The dad sent her to some clinic. And they keep referring to the clinic, which DP7 is sounding a lot like Harbinger from Valiant, actually, except adults, or even the Warriors of Plasm a little bit. That may be something. I don't know who wrote DP7. Maybe I'll read that one next, and look at the similarities there. That might be something that, an idea that shooter like to have of like normal people who got powers and then are on the run from some bigger organization. That's what think of the clinic as like the Harada Foundation or the Harbinger Foundation, and there's a head honcho guy like Harada. That's what I got out of this anyway. So here's the clinic. So after they meet them, they see their powers, and most of them are weirded out by their powers, because even Mr. Magnificent, who has powers, is like, yeah, my powers are basically like super strength and speed, and I can heal pretty quick, but other than that, I'm basically normal. They have powers like they sparkle and can make things like slippery or sticky and whatnot. So they go visit this the clinic, and you see they have other paranormals there. That's what I'm saying. It's like the Harbinger Foundation. And they say that those guys or those characters are not escapees, but that they're dangerous, they're menaces to society, they need to be brought back. And Jack kind of buys into that. So he goes back to the campground and asks where his wife is, and she's not there, and him and the big guy get into a brawl. And this is where Jack actually kind of gets, the biggest challenge he's had in the series so far. This guy's big and he's strong, and he beats the snot out of Jack. I mean, he beats him bad. The wife shows back up, and they decide to stop. But at this point, I mean, Jack's like beat. Like, look at him there. He hadn't been beat that bad in anything so far. But apparently, Sparkle Girl, one of her powers is to heal. So she heals him up a little bit, and they're like, we got to get out of here because those football players sold us out, and the clinic is probably coming after us now, the guys from the clinic. So they just bug out. Don't blame them. First, some of the other kickers are like, hey, we should go after him. They're like, well, I doubt we'll do any better than last time. Oh, I did want to point out one other thing that was funny. During the brawl here, total football move. Suicide and Dasher got tagged, but blocked for me. So he's like a running back running through the line. So they're like, let's squeeze in a little bit of a football move there during this action. But they decide there is one thing. The wife of Jack decides there's one thing they can do, and it's basically go tell the husband to let the mom talk to the kids. And the wife, Jack's wife, tells the kids, I think you're going to be allowed to talk to him now. So that's it for Kickers Inc. Like I said, this title, I had a hard time staying with it. It just did not hold my interest too well. I was a little disappointed that it wasn't more traditional. The first issue, kind of interesting. The second issue, less so. The third, the cult thing was kind of fun. And then the last two issues were just, man, they were a slug to get through. So out of the new universe that I've read so far, I can't say that I would try to get more issues of this series to see where it goes. Starbrand, maybe so. Spitfire, and this third one that I've read so far is a definite no. So I'm reading these so you don't have to. You know the motto, read your comics. Thanks for watching. If you enjoy my breakdown of this issue, you can support the channel by hitting subscribe. It costs you nothing and helps other comic fans find the channel. You can also visit readyourcomics.com for cool merch, like this. Read Your Comics isn't just a brand, it's a mantra. And when you wear a Read Your Comics shirt, you are helping spread the word. For more classic comics conversation, be sure to follow me on Instagram at read.your.comics. And if you're still here, why not watch one of my older videos? Here or here.